properly, then we can
Along
really
the
take
way, they're
advantage of.
trailed by a
Hello, one and all, and welcome to episode 14 of Taboo. Looks like we got a whole bunch of people in the Facebook chat room, which is awesome. Hello, people in the Facebook chat room. And I see a lot of comments in there, and thank you, Robert, for telling them basically what we were going to talk about. I am your host, Zan, and with me, of course, is Alex. Alex, say hello.
Hello.
Oh, I seem really loud today for some reason. But today we are going to be talking about the Amazon and other things. First off, the Amazon. So this is something that bothers me greatly because up until I believe it was yesterday, there was basically nothing in the mainstream media about it at all. For those of you who don't know or hiding under a rock somewhere, the Amazon rainforest is something that provides nearly, 20% of our oxygen, 30% of our oxygen, somewhere in there, is on fire.
That's nice. And on top of that, they're constantly cutting it down, but that's another story for another day.
Yeah, and we'll get into that. I got some videos I want to play to show you guys some of the information about the Amazon rainforest, because it is pretty important, right? So we got thanks for commenting on the graphic. It's good. It took like 2 minutes to make, but anyway, so not only that, but 30% of all species are in the rainforest, etc., etc. Now, there's a great deal of, I'm going to use the term conspiracy as to who/what started these fires. Some say, oh, it's just a natural thing, etc., etc. I call bullshit, even.
It's called trusting your gut.
Well, and here's the thing, right? Okay, so every year, yes, there's some fires and stuff in the Amazon, but it has never been this bad. And I believe one of the videos that we're going to show it actually lets you know it's like literally about 80% more burning this year than what has in the past. So, that's kind of a big thing, because nobody wants to wake up one day and not breathe. So, first off, I do want to say I did see this today that Colorado, the state that I am in, yay, Colorado, is actually sending one of their ginormous tanker planes to the rainforest. To the rainforest to hopefully help put it out. Pardon me, the Brazilian government is spending thousands and sending hundreds of thousands of people to fight it. Jeffrey, I don't know what you mean by louder. If I get any louder, I think I'm going to break somebody's eardrums. You might want to just turn up the volume, maybe? I don't know. I can't hear what it sounds like, so I can tell you. Also, so we got here, there's a lot of, interesting. It's showing it kind of low down there. Let's turn it up here, maybe just a little bit. That's the different thing. So yeah, I don't know why it seems so low. At any rate, sorry, got off kilter there. I'm going to go ahead and start with a couple of videos. Let's start with the first one, which is going to be the news coverage here. This is a fairly recent thing from the news.
And amid global concern, French President Emmanuel Macron is now calling on world leaders at the G7 summit to put those massive fires in Brazil's Amazon at the top of the agenda this weekend and direct resources needed to help Brazil put them out. For his part, President Trump says the U.S. is ready to assist with those containment efforts. Christina Coleman joins us live from our West Coast bureau with the situation that really is causing concern. Hi, Christina.
Hi, Eric. Well, thousands of miles of scorched forest, hundreds of burned trees, and giant plumes of smoke so large they can be seen from space. It's all part of these big fires. Today, Brazil's military was deployed to help fight the flames. Fires are common in Brazil during its dry season, but scientists say they're more widespread this year, up by 85% compared to this time last year. These NASA images show Brazil swathed in smoke from the vast fires. Brazilians and other South Americans have taken to the streets demanding the Brazilian government take concrete action to stop the fires. The loss of biodiversity, land, and the risk of health problems from air pollution are all big concerns.
I don't have enough air to breathe. I can't sleep. I feel really bad, and sometimes I don't even eat properly because of the lack of air.
Brazil's National Space Research Institute doesn't have the exact number of acres that have burned so far, but says between January and August of this year, deforestation as a whole resulted in the loss of 3,751 miles of forest in Brazil. That's larger than the size of Yellowstone National Park.
What is happening in the Amazon is a crime. It is an environmental crime. There is a law that protects the Amazon and protects the forest. There has to be guards, there must be environmental police and people controlling illegal deforestation in the Amazon. But that is not happening.
President Trump offered help to fight the fires, saying the U.S. stands by, ready to assist. So it will be interesting to see what other world leaders might have to say about these fires at the G7 summit.
Okay, so we're talking miles upon thousands of miles of damage to the rainforest. It's sad. It's very, very sad. Yeah, see, and that's what I'm kind of getting to here, Dylan, is that, or Dion, sorry, is that lasers from satellites or planes. There's a lot of conspiracy about who and what started it. Some people were saying that it was started simply from, like, you know, loggers and people doing their normal things. But this fire is way too damn big and way too out of control to be part of that. You know what I mean? So I am of the mind that it was set to form some agenda. And why I think that is because it wasn't shown in media at all anywhere until just recently when it was brought up at the G7 summit. Why is that?
Because everything's about an agenda. Yeah, I think the first time that I actually saw something on it was on Twitter, and it was in lieu of the G7 summit, and it was President Trump saying that he is at the helm, ready, willing, and able to help Brazil in any way he can with getting it under control. And that was probably 5 days ago. So that was before that hit the news at all.
Oh yeah, I know. And it's like there is nothing, even still, it's very minimal, any coverage, and it's always about the G7 summit and how they just finally decided, oh, hey, we should probably do something about this and call the world into order. That's a bunch of crap. Now, I don't know how many of you guys out there happen to watch those what if videos that you see all the time. Trump started the fires. I kind of doubt that. Kind of. I'm not discounting it 100%, but I really doubt that's the issue. But I do want to show you this one too. So let's take a look at it.
How long would it take for the world's largest rainforest to burn down? If we don't do anything to stop it, we'll soon find out. The Amazon rainforest creates 20% of the Earth's oxygen. It's home to 30% of the planet's species. And it holds the secrets to treating some of our most deadly diseases. If we destroy the Amazon rainforest, the consequences would be disastrous, and they'd be felt all over the world. Could we survive without it? Why would it have a giant impact on our health care? And would we ever be able to bring it back? This is What If, and here's what would happen if the Amazon rainforest disappeared. Recently, massive forest fires have become the biggest threat to the Amazon's survival. But unfortunately, the fires are just part of a much bigger problem. For example, farming, mining, and logging are already responsible for 3 football fields worth of deforestation per minute. If we don't do anything to stop this, the Amazon rainforest will disappear eventually. And we'd lose any chance we have in the battle against climate change. The Amazon rainforest is one of the most incredible places on Earth. It covers 40% of South America, drives the South American economy, and stores 86 billion tons of carbon that would otherwise be polluting our atmosphere. With an area that's this important, you'd think we would do everything in our power to protect it. But we don't. Since 1978, an estimated 750,000 square kilometers of rainforest have been destroyed, all thanks to humans. If this trend continues, the Amazon rainforest could disappear within 100 years. How bad would that be for our planet? Well, let's take a look. For starters, we'd be losing a huge amount of our planet's biodiversity. The Amazon rainforest has more plant and animal species than any other terrestrial ecosystem on Earth. If we destroy the Amazon, we'll be destroying all that diversity too, and wiping out an entire ecosystem at the same time. That would have huge effects on Earth. We'd all quickly realize how much we've been relying on the Amazon's resources for food and medicine. Most people are surprised when they find out that hundreds of prescription drugs have come from things in the Amazon rainforest. We're not just talking about simple herbal remedies either. We're talking about full-fledged cancer-fighting drugs that are so important that they've been classified as essential medicines by the World Health Organization. And we haven't even scratched the surface yet. Scientists estimate that they've studied less than 5% of the plants in the rainforest for potential medicinal benefits. So who knows what other essential treatments we could lose without the rainforest? But the most critical problem we'd face if the Amazon completely disappeared would be a faster pace of climate change. If the Amazon rainforest continues to wither and die, it will stop being a source of oxygen. Instead, it will begin to give off carbon, which we all know is fueling climate change. Right now, the Amazon has a natural stockpile of carbon reserves, anywhere from 90 to 140 billion tons of the stuff. If we woke up tomorrow and found the Amazon destroyed, especially by fire, all that carbon would be floating in the atmosphere. Some experts believe that if this happens, we would lose the battle against climate change. But it's not all doom and gloom. There is still hope for the Amazon rainforest. Through studies conducted over the past several decades, researchers have found that tropical forests may be able to survive human-caused destruction. Even without human help, a rainforest can start growing again if it has enough seedlings. However, this can only be successful if the rainforest isn't always under attack. So, what can you do to help? Well, for starters, don't eat as much beef. Processed beef products, such as fast food hamburgers, are full of illegally sourced beef from the rainforest. Reduce the amount of paper you use and choose renewable energy products whenever you can. Renewable energy reduces the amount of carbon we spew into the atmosphere from fossil fuels, many of which come from the Amazon rainforest. Maybe, if we all work together, we can restore this beautiful rainforest to its former glory. But that's a topic for another What If.
So that tells you a little bit about what's going on, right? And what could happen? All bad things come to pass. So I want to touch on a couple of things. I like how it mentioned in there that there was or that it could come back from a human caused, right? Which that alone should tell you that this is human caused. That it might come back, but not if we keep doing the shit that we're doing to destroy it.
Yeah, it's really sad. I think the best description of humanity was in Doctor Who, the reboot. He's like, yeah, they're a bunch of stupid apes, but they have incredible potential. But that potential can only be realized if we stop being incredibly stupid.
Yeah, well, I don't see that happening anytime soon, which is sad. But yeah, so Jason says, I wonder if the Amazon forest will ever recover from this. From the look of it, probably not in my lifetime. And that's horribly true, Jason. It probably won't. At least not from this. Not while we're still using wood from there and clearing land for cows. And I think it's kind of funny that it's like we clear land for cows and then a shit ton more land so that we can make soybeans to feed those cows. It's like, really? Come on, people. But it comes up, so the Amazon is a place where, okay, if you know Geology 101, right? And how oil is made from decaying plants, which, you know, the Amazon rainforest is full of decaying plants. Which makes me think that there's probably a huge oil reserve sitting under there. And maybe this is being done to then allow people to go in there and mine for oil.
Wouldn't surprise me. Everything's about oil and fossil fuels, and they mentioned renewable energy, but sadly, that doesn't make money.
Well, and I agree with something Peter says here in the Facebook chat is blaming the little guy as the cause of these disasters by wanting a hamburger once in a while is not the answer. True, that's not the answer, because there's plenty of cows and everything else and things to feed cows for people. Well, okay, maybe not. But still, it's the large-scale industries, like he says, that are the culprit at their irresponsibility, not Joe buying a burger, and that's very true. You know, if it was Joe buying the burger, you would see burger prices going way the fuck up. I like how he says this. He says the amount of toxins released in big industry makes up the 100,000 people eating barbecue seem like peanuts compared to what they do. Oh, exactly. Exactly. And Larry, I agree, charcoal should be fairly inexpensive. I mean, it's all the cost involved in getting it out of the ground. But going back to what I was saying, I think this is something that big industry, especially oil, is looking at killing off the rainforest or getting rid of as much as possible so they can get their drills in there. And we'll see in the near future if that's correct. But typically, any place that's a big forest or that used to be a big forest has a lot of oil under it. Like, you know, in Saudi Arabia and those places, millions of years ago was a tropical landscape. So it could very well be. Yeah. Ashley says oil companies lost a legal battle with the tribes. It was all over Facebook, and so did the what do you call them? The logger commission people. Alexa, turn off the air conditioner. And yeah, both of those have been all over all over Facebook, all over the news, etc., etc. So, yeah, absolutely.
That screams whiny child losing a battle there. Oh, we lost our agreement. Let's just go burn the place down.
Yeah. Well, if it's not there, then there's going to be nobody there to say, no, we don't want you drilling for oil.
Mm-hmm.
So it's that monetary short-sightedness of what we all call the elite. I'm sure that's the problem here. So I have one more video. It's a little bit longer. It's about 8 or 9 minutes, something like that. And it tells us really what happens when we lose the Amazon rainforest. Now, keep in mind, even your prescription meds are made of stuff that is non-synthetic or has been synthesized from something from the rainforest. Alexa, stop the rainforest from burning. Wonder what she'd reply. Like aspirin is willow bark, basically. White willow bark, to be exact. And I mean, the list goes on and on. There's thousands upon thousands of species of plants and animals in the Amazon that haven't been discovered yet. And it's one of the richest sources of medicines and biodiversity. I mean, 30% of all known species that we know of come from the rainforest. So imagine if that's gone, 30% of animals, bye.
See, the problem is they just don't care, because by the time the consequences of their actions actually hit, they'll be dead. So what does it matter?
And that's what I mean. It's the short-sightedness. I want all the money I can get now. So if we burn this place down, I can put my drills in there, get lots and lots of oil coming out, make tens of billions and trillions and gazillions of dollars, and then I die happy. And then my idiot son will take over my business and, I don't know, destroy the rest of the planet. Who knows? Yeah, that's the thing that gets me, Ashley, is that there is lack of media coverage to keep it all hush-hush. The only thing I've seen in the news was something from yesterday, and it had to do about the G7 summit and how they were like, hey, we need to stop this from happening. And then you see all these subtitles or,
Crawlers?
Well, articles, that's what I'm looking for, about how all these world leaders are now saying, oh, yes, but the fucking thing's been burning for 3 weeks. What did it say? 10 or 100 football fields, or was it 10 football fields? Something like that, every minute? That's a lot of space.
Well, that was just the logging, was 3 football fields every minute.
Yeah. 3 football fields every minute of logging, and the fire's burning even faster than that. So, alright, well, here's the bad news, people. I'm going to play this video, and by all means, let me know what you think.
How long would it take for the world's largest rainforest to burn down? If we don't do anything to stop it, we'll soon find out. The Amazon rainforest creates 20% of the Earth's oxygen. It's home to 30% of the planet's species. And it holds the secrets to treating some of our most deadly diseases.
Whoops, wrong one. Hang on just a second. Oh, yep, it is the wrong one. Hang on. That's the one I wanted. Okay, let me try this again. Wait, hang on. Yeah. Okay, here it is.
The Amazon rainforest is spectacular. It's by far the largest forest on Earth and is home to some of the most impressive plants and animals ever discovered. But more and more today, news about the Amazon has shifted away from the amazing discoveries inside to focus on the issues currently plaguing the forest, namely deforestation and all the side effects associated with it. Currently, the Amazon is the world's largest deforestation front with 25 fronts that all exist inside 9 developing nations, meaning each one is trying to use their natural natural resources to improve their development and living conditions. All in all, roughly 20% of the Amazon rainforest has been cleared so far to make room for things like livestock to feed growing global demand and soy farms to feed the livestock. And it's predicted to reach 27% by the year 2030. But let's just say for some reason we lost control and clear-cut 100% of the rainforest in some sort of ecocidal rage. What would happen? Well, first, 5.5 million square kilometers of land previously covered by rainforest would be left entirely barren. In total, we would have cut approximately 390 billion trees down. Eventually, these trees would decompose and anywhere between 90 to 140 billion metric tons of carbon dioxide would enter our atmosphere. This is about equal to 3 to 5 times what we emit annually worldwide for carbon dioxide. Surprisingly, there's actually little net gain in oxygen produced from the forest, as the process of growth and decay are essentially equal in a stable forest. But even still, with all the added CO2, we all might have a harder time simply breathing on the planet. This change to the atmosphere would also affect the oceans. The increased concentration of CO2 in the atmosphere would translate into more dissolved CO2 in ocean water, making the whole ocean more acidic. This in turn would damage sensitive marine life like coral and microscopic organisms, and lead to things like bleaching and mass die-offs. Long story short, this event would have huge rippling effects throughout essentially every part of the planet, most of which would be negative changes. But trees aren't the only thing that live in the Amazon. In fact, 1 out of every 10 known species calls the Amazon home, and this region is by far the world's greatest collection of life on Earth. That means 40,000 plant species gone, 2.5 million insect species would be gone, 1,300 bird species gone, 400 mammals gone, and 400 amphibians gone. You get the picture. That's not even counting the 31 million people who live and rely on the Amazon rainforest for their survival. But now, let's take a look at what a cleared Amazon would mean for the region. Without any trees or plants to hold the soil in place, the entire region would experience drastic degrees of erosion. The rainforest now is situated in the largest drainage basin in the world, and all that water would carry with it the now infertile soils. With no plants to help absorb the water, the amount of runoff would increase as well, and very quickly these waters would wash away any and all fertile soil. The Amazon River would likely flow murky brown from all the sediments, and we might even see the Amazon Delta extend further into the Atlantic Ocean due to all of the deposited sediments. This event would also have a tremendous negative impact on the economics of the concerned countries. Within the Amazon region, the rainforest accounts for 70% of the economic activity. This includes industries like agriculture and tourism. Without the forest, these industries would collapse, and these already struggling countries would encounter even greater economic hardship, and the road to recovery would be a long one. Another unforeseen impact would be on the world of medicine and pharmaceutics. Today, the rainforest produces 25% of the plants used in our medicines, and it's estimated that less than 1% of all flowering plants in the Amazon have been closely studied for medicinal benefits, so there are likely still heaps of medicinal plants just waiting to be found. Clear-cutting would cut off this huge medical resource and rule out any further discoveries in the region. But by far the largest impact of this event would be the change in the Earth's weather systems. To understand this, first you need to know about a process called transpiration, sometimes called evapotranspiration. In short, as part of the process of photosynthesis, plants release water vapor from their leaves into the atmosphere. This water vapor floats up to become clouds to become rain. And this isn't a neglectable amount of water. A single oak tree can transpire 40,000 gallons of water a year, and just 1 acre of something like corn can give off up to 4,000 gallons of water a day. Plants actually use very little of the water they take in, and will usually transpire over 97% of what they've absorbed from the ground. It's been measured that plant life on Earth accounts for 10 to 15% of all the water in the atmosphere, with the rest, of course, supplied by the oceans. That's a crazy amount of water when you think about it. Look, here's a picture of part of the Amazon rainforest. You'll notice you can barely see anything through the layer of numerous small clouds created by transpiration. Basically, the forest creates its own rain, and this is what preserves the ecosystem here. Take away trees and there's less transpiration. Take them all away and yeah, there's no more rain. This is part of the reason why this region recently has been experiencing droughts, as the impacts of cutting 20% of the forest have already begun to take effect. But the impacts of this would not be received restricted to the Amazon region alone. Everywhere on the South American continent would see reduced rainfall, and researchers at Princeton University found this would even severely decrease precipitation all along the North American west coast. You know, that place with all the fires because it hasn't been raining much. Estimates predict that places as far away as the Sierra Nevadas could see a 50% decrease in annual precipitation as a result of this event. This, combined with the added carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, would likely cause dramatic shifts in climate worldwide, possibly creating a global drought. But after all these changes, what would we find where the forest once was? First, and most importantly, the rainforest would not return. As I just explained, without the trees, rains would be less frequent in the region, and without those rains, a rainforest could not grow. You see, the Amazon formed during the Eocene epoch up to 56 million years ago, when the whole world was a lot warmer and wetter. Under these conditions, rainforests could be found across the planet. But as the planet began to cool, these rainforests receded until only a few surviving rainforests were left at the tropics. These remained intact only because they were able to artificially create climate conditions similar to the times when they formed. Taking away these forests essentially ends these conditions for good. In its place would be a swath of scarred land that's not good for any commercial use. Besides the rain, the forest also helped maintain the health and fertility of the soil, and without it, the fields would quickly wither and erode. Because of this, it wouldn't be useful for large-scale, long-term agriculture without heavy use of fertilizers. For this reason, the land would eventually be left alone for nature to take its course. In this event, plants would slowly reclaim the land, but in the place of the once mighty Amazon rainforest would likely be an extensive grassland region interspersed with occasional woodlands, similar to the climate of eastern Central Africa like the Serengeti, as these regions both exist at the same latitude. A similarly functioning ecosystem would begin to form, likely with large herds of grazing animals. These could possibly even be the ancestors of escaped farm animals from Brazil's huge livestock industry, but it would never come close to the grandeur of the rainforest that preceded it. If there's one takeaway from this video, it should be this. When it comes to clearing any part of the Amazon, the immediate benefits can never outweigh the long-term costs. And doing so has far-reaching consequences on not only the region, but the world. And once it's done, it can't be undone. I guess there are a couple things I'd like you to take away from this video, actually. Anyway, if you're interested in helping to conserve what remains of the Amazon and of all the world's rainforests for that matter, there's a number of great charities and organizations out there working with that cause in mind. Other than that, I hope you enjoyed. If you did and you want to see more, give this video a like and subscribe, and I'll be back next week with another video. Follow me on Twitter to see updates on videos and to see when I post new ones. If you're curious about other hypothetical ways to destroy the Earth, you should check out this video about what would happen if Antarctica melted. Other than that, thanks for watching.
And to add on to that video, I feel like not only the lack of water and oxygen going back into the atmosphere, I feel like it would also severely diminish the ozone.
Mm-hmm.
And no ozone means radiation. Radiation means we all die.
Yeah.
Oh, wait.
Well, yeah. I'm just looking at all the comments from the Facebook chat. It's kind of interesting. Printed fabrication of dwellings is already being done as we need to scale and use common materials like dirt and rock. Exactly, Peter. And then Jason says, you think there would be more important things to report in the the G7 summit, like making efforts to save the Earth from our own destruction? We humans have long history of destroying and devastating everything in our path. Sometimes I feel ashamed to be human. Let's see what else he says there. Knowing the atrocities that we have done, I hope that we can find ways to help save the Amazon and I think it's and the wildlife for future generations, but I hope history repeats itself in a positive way instead of a negative way. Well, Jason, I agree with you. I think the only way that we're going to get the kind of what am I looking for here? The kind of support that we need is to really take it public. And that means, you know, as far as social media goes, post the crap out of it on Twitter, on YouTube, on Facebook, everywhere that you can to get people in the know. The one thing that the elitists, I will say, have done a very good job of, actually the two things, is one is dividing us, where we are divided by age, sex, race, religion, etc., etc.
Politics.
Yeah, political affiliation, all that good stuff. We're so divided that if we come together, it's a group of 5, or a group of 25, or a group of 50. It's not all of us together. You know what I mean? Secondly, they've done a great job of dividing us by making us stupid. And by that, you can go back in our previous episode about education system and how it's broken and how it's helping destroy the future generations. But basically, we are taught bullshit in school. Pretty much all of it. And this is universally, well, okay, on this planet anyway, it's universal, meaning everybody who goes to school is taught a bunch of crap. They're taught to be able to digest, not necessarily understand, but be able to regurgitate, quote unquote, facts that they're taught in order to perform well on a test. That is not education. It needs to start with education. We used to be a great civilization. I'm talking about America, just America at this point, because we were in the know. We were informed of what was really going on. The news was news. It wasn't editorialized to fit an agenda. When you turn on the news today, you could probably find the exact same stories read in the exact same way with the exact same enunciation on multiple different platforms. CBS, NBC, CNN, MSNBC, all of those guys say the same shit in the same way. It's just different people saying it. And it's all towards an agenda.
We are bred to be sheeple. Go to school, learn the liberal agenda.
Pardon me.
Regurgitate the liberal agenda even though you have no idea what's actually going on.
Well, whether it's the liberal, the right, who gives a shit? It's all an agenda that's bullshit. It's made to make us stupid, not question things. It's made, you're then punished in school if you think for yourself and say, well, wait a minute. So this guy rode a horse saying the British are coming, and that started, what? That doesn't make sense. Oh no, you have to understand that this is how it was, and there's no questions about it, even though it's been proven that that isn't what happened. It's just ridiculous how we as a society, and I mean, as a parent, you cannot discipline your children, at least not in public. Good Lord. I remember when I was little, I would go to a store. If I had a fit, God forbid, I'd get my ass whooped right there in the store. Not a person would say anything different. Nowadays, you go to spank a kid or something like that, doesn't even matter if it's in your own home. They call the cops, you go to jail. How can we be in a society that A, lacks discipline, pardon me, lacks intelligence, lacks critical thinking? Exactly, Jason. Time to unite or we all fall. And Michael, I want to mention this. He says you're giving way too much credit to the elitists, whoever they are. I'm pretty sure that there's no elitist meeting every week trying to think of ways to kill us all. No, not every week. They're yearly meetings. And you can look this up. Look up the Bilderbergs, Council of Foreign Relations. I can't remember what the name of that one is. The Bohemian group.
Yeah, I gotta love the yearly summit. Oh, who are we gonna attack? Who's gonna be attacked? Who's gonna do the attacking? Who's gonna take the blame for it?
Well, and you can see, the power these guys have. Just simply, I'm going to go back to the 2016 election, where everybody was pro Bernie Sanders, and he was anti-Clinton, with a vengeance at first. The Bilderberg group holds its meeting. Both he and Hillary are invited, and then suddenly Bernie's for Hillary and backs her 100%. You really don't think that they control a lot of stuff? And the reason they control it is because They are getting, I mean, if you ask the average person on the street, go out and do this, go to a mall, ask somebody who's, 25 or under, what is the First Amendment? What are the first 3 words of the Constitution? Most of them aren't going to know. And that's really sad. I mean, you can pull up a YouTube video of stupid people. Like, literally. Jay Leno, all the nighttime talk show hosts have done it, where they go out into the public and they ask them certain things. Exactly. Peter hits it right on the nose. He says some people just don't know how to play nice with others. Globalists, they do not care about humanity or nature, just their own little space for their own little agenda, and they have the money to carry out that agenda. They're low vibrational beings. Very good, Peter. That last statement, we talk a lot about the law of one, which is probably going to be one of our next episodes. And yeah, low vibrational beings indeed. It's not just it's not just politics. Who do you think controls the politicians?
The Illuminati.
It certainly isn't the people. We're supposed to be like us here in America. I don't know where you're at, Michael, but us here in America are supposed to have a representative republic, meaning that our representatives, our senators and congressmen, represent us. Even though well, not sometimes, but all the times they're passing laws that we don't agree with, that we didn't ask for.
Yeah. The government for the people, by the people, and of the people, my ass.
Politicians were never meant to be a lifetime thing. The Founding Fathers wanted people involved in their government, not to have a certain group of people involved in the government. And that's the big thing that a lot of people don't get, is that, I think it's funny how Congress limits the terms of the president after World War II because they think, oh, well, anybody who holds that office for a long period of time has too much power. Nancy Pelosi, 30 plus years in the Senate.
Worth $72 million.
Yet she's so willing, so very willing, to blame somebody that just gets into office for everything. Yet she hasn't done shit in her 30-some years. Look at her constituency. Tent cities and garbage. Shit on the streets. Which brings me to another point. Fucking San Francisco. What the hell is up with that? You will no longer be convicted felons. What is it? Judicially involved. Or involved in the justice system. Or something stupid like that. But yes, Peter hits another nose. Head on the nose. Whatever. Politics is about creating division so they can run away with the power and the money, while we bicker about stupid deals and treaties and nonsense. Exactly. So I said this a few weeks ago, right? I said that I was waiting for something to take the lead in the news, because all that Epstein stuff has slowly drifted off into nothingness. Even though the prosecutor guy says that he's going to continue with it, there's nothing about it anymore. It just kind of disappeared.
I think you knew it would.
So what were the new headlines recently?
I can think of one. The economics. It's
the economy stuff. Yep.
Oh, we're gonna head to a recession, or shocker. But yet, the politicians that are in charge of their own sectors, for lack of a better word, and have the most hold over the economy, are gonna blame it on the president, because that's exactly what Nazis do, don't they? They blame it on the leader to get everybody to hate the leader and fall passive into their regime.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you look at the Nazis in Germany in the 30s, you know, they were out there making sure that everybody else died or everything blew up and was blamed on somebody else. Alexa, turn off the air conditioner. So let's see, what do we got as headlines now? CEOs are selling stock like it's 2007. Economy stuff. What? From Ferris Bueller to opioid trial, a judge's wild ride into history.
Yeah, that's really important.
These are on CNN right now. Elizabeth Warren's massive crowd tells us what? Who knows? Tells us a bunch of lies.
Elizabeth Warren, what isn't she the
And then, of
girl
course,
that was...
intermittent fasting and new passion helped him lose 95 pounds. And I mean, these are newsworthy items, people. Yep. Yeah. Okay, Peter mentions another thing. Sorry, I left the room for a minute. No, population reduction is not the answer. This is nihilistic and fatal pessimistic worldview. I disagree. We can travel in space, we can colonize, we can improve the quality of life here. Obliterating life is not the answer. This is supremacist thinking. Stalin and Mark Mayo and Hitler did this. Whoa, where'd it go? And it did not work. Exactly. Population control isn't the thing. You're not going to be able to make people not have sex and not procreate and not do anything.
I have to disagree, Michael. That you say Nazis are too stupid to influence anything. The Nazis started out as a small group that influenced the entirety of Germany to hate a group of people and their government so much that it created a massive, almost genocidal, close to genocidal effect. 9 out of every 10 Jews were killed, and they even took it out of Germany. They went to Poland, they went to France, and tried the whole world domination aspect. And that's exactly what America's trying to do right now, too. They're trying to influence democratic changes in the Middle East. They're trying to take control of the freaking world, and they're blaming other people, saying it's their fault to get, the people A, divided, B, to pacify them into their own agenda. And history is repeating itself, and unless people open their freaking eyes, it's gonna repeat itself.
Well, and that's just it, too, is that... So, following the Second World War, we imported a shit ton of Nazis as part of Project Paperclip. That is not in dispute. Okay? Now, Michael says today's Nazis too stupid. Now, you're thinking of the Nazis like the neo-Nazis, the skinheads, and stupid people like that. Yes, that is too stupid to take control. The ones that we're talking about are the ones that remained or have their political views in the public. Look at what's happening. They're trying to take gun control, right? Even though we have shown Detroit, Chicago, places that have the strictest gun control laws have the heaviest crime in our nation. See, here's how it works. First, you make the people stupid, so they don't know what rights they have. Again, go to a mall, ask somebody to recite any of the Bill of Rights, any of the constitutional amendments. 90% of them aren't going to know shit. Okay? Second, you start making laws to take away those rights. Well, if they don't know they have it, it's not being taken away, right? But now there's a law that says you can't have this. this, you can't have that, you can't do this, you can't do that. That's the problem, right there. We become too stupid and too pacifistic, sitting in front of the TV for God knows how long, being fed this garbage all the time.
And I actually have to wonder.
And we think, oh, hey, we're free.
Yeah. I have to wonder if these neo-Nazis that are being called neo-Nazis, the Trump supporters, the racists, the this, the that, I have to wonder if they actually are Nazis by the original term, because the ones that are calling them Nazis are the ones influencing everybody to start hating them and start being divided.
Well, and that's just it. So you make the people stupid. You start taking away their rights that they don't even realize that they have. Have a good night, Ashley. And then you divide. Divide. Right? So we've had Antifa. This drives me absolutely fucking nuts. It's supposed to be anti-fascist, right? But yet they go around, they throw rocks, they throw cement blocks at people, at kids, and I'm sorry to say this, but if something like that were to happen in my presence, I would go to jail, because at that point they are a terrorist and I am going to take them out. And I agree, Peter, Nazis are irrelevant. It's just a lot of the history can be seen from back then as to how they managed to take control of Germany, as to how the elitist, if you will, whoever you want to call them, whatever you want to call them, are trying to take over here. And it's a political distraction, the unyielding culprit of the force of destruction, nihilism. This takes many forms, not just the Nazi ideology. Mao was a communist, and he literally killed all the birds that flew in the entire section of China to preserve the seed for crops. This created pestilence and famine and death of 80 million plus dead, and they make the Nazis look like amateurs. True. And this is the thing, is in today's world, the ability to destroy outweighs the ability to create. And again, going back to education, they have taken creative thought from us, or are taking creative thought from us. You know, America used to be #1 in science, mathematics, reading, comprehension, etc., and now we're like 40-something at least in most of those things. And that's just sad.
Pink Floyd, just another brick in the wall.
Yep. I would agree too. The FBI knows exactly where all 5,000 plus true Nazis live in this country. And if they do something stupid, the entire military will descend on those towns. They'll be wiped out in their backwater holes. Possibly. But you can't argue the fact, at least not well, that there is a political agenda that is very similar to the Nazis. The socialist democracy, or the socialist Democrats, is a good example of that. That's pretty much exactly what the Nazis were national socialists. I would agree that the power of creation is always, always, always stronger than the power of destruction. However, 90% of our creativity goes into the ability to destroy. And not create. And by create, I mean create for the common good, create for the species, create for the advancement of humanity. Any of those kind of things, like fusion reactors, for example, or hydrogen generators, or any of that stuff, is often bought up by these big corporations, these big multi-trillionaire people that run these, like the oil conglomerates and that kind of things, and then silenced, or turned into things like hydrogen bombs, or fusion bombs, or things of that nature. It's like, how can this best destroy? But that's the other way that they control people, through the threat of death.
Then you got the chemtrails and everything else.
Yeah, we could certainly get into that, but we're not going to today.
But I saw recently that Japan is starting to implement and use Tesla's technology.
Yes, that was something interesting I saw. That Japan has been able to transmit wireless energy. I think it was 10 kilowatts, 500 meters, which in the grand scheme isn't that far. But they're working towards what Tesla was able to do back in the 20s. So, yeah. Yes, this is true, but you're talking universal truth. And he's saying, in any quadrant of space, anywhere you look, there are more stars being created than are dying. This is the universe talking directly to you. Can you listen to the power of creation? This is, the universe creates more than it destroys in a vast scale. Indeed. But at the same time, the universe isn't humanity. See, humanity has always viewed itself as, well, I shouldn't say always. In modern times, I'm talking probably from the 1900s on, humanity has always felt it as apart from everything else. You know, I mean, prior to that you had, you know, wow, we're getting way into deep stuff here. Yeah, and we're not going to hit on this today. I'm just not going to do it. We got 3 minutes left.
Can I throw something in?
Sure.
In the universal aspect, if you think of, at least in my mind, if you think of the universe as one entity, similar to the way that humans think of themselves as separate entities, what do our bodies do when we get an infection? We seal it off, our white blood cells go and attack it and clear out the infection, most of the time without need for exterior help. So, what happens when the entity that is the universe gets tired of the infection known as humanity?
Well, it'll fight back.
Yeah.
And that's something interesting about the Amazon too, with so little known about it. Like 1% of all the plant species, maybe 5% of all the animal species, and probably about 3% of all the insect species that live there. If they are forced out of that area, who's to say that the next global killer isn't right in there, you know, being contained by the forest? You know what I mean? Like the malaria is a good example of something that could be really bad. Hemorrhagic fever, all of these things were in the rainforest and were found from people deforesting or destroying the rainforest. It's really interesting. We are all dust made from stars. You are very correct. However, the mental acuity, if you will, of the human brain sees us as separate, which is totally not right. Peter, I really want you to come in and talk with us when we're doing Law of One stuff. I think you'll really dig that stuff. But, all right, we have a minute. So I am going to call it at this point. I do want to thank everybody for coming in, all the comments, etc., etc. I do want to tell you that we are on Twitch, Facebook Live, D Live, Smashcast,
Patreon.
Patreon. We have all these things. Feel free to like, follow, and share. Please share this video to people so that they can see the effects of the rainforest and what it can do. And we will definitely hit a lot more issues coming in the future. For Taboo, for Alex and myself, I want to say good night.